They were doing this like everywhere, right?
So a bunch of Chinese people come together,
yes,
doing Kung Fu.
And killing
and they go to churches and they kill the fathers and they demolish the churches.
Yeah, people who work inside, whatever. So there are a lot of detail. There are a lot of details here, and plus
they're very close to China.
Plus the Christians, the missionary. They went to China. They went to China with these British businessmen, like this missionary from Europe, like from France, especially because I know a lot of French churches in China. So they went to.
That's why they have this series Shogun.
Shogun.
Have you heard of it?
What is it?
Shogun is a Japanese series about this samurai thing, and
I think I watched a movie about it.
Yeah, the story starts with these guys you just mentioned, the European, what are they called? Missionaries.
Missionary, yeah.
With the god, the
cross.
Yeah, with the cross that they want to build a church or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with a thought to build a church. They went to Japan and stuff like that. But I understand.
Yeah, but it's the same thing in China. So now you understand.
So
they went to China, and they were good people. Right? They were Christians. They were God's people. They are
Europeans.
They were men of God. Yeah.
Okay.
They were good people. They were helping the poor Chinese. So you can understand the tension here. The Chinese were kind of like, they don't like some Chinese. They weren't doing opium. They were smart, and they know that British people are bad. They are doing this on purpose, right? They were selling us opiums on purpose with cheap price, and at the same time you have missionary who was building church, and when they built this church, they were trying to help the poor people. And in China, bro, like you said, in India, you see these kids without leg and that mother with a single mother with a baby, doesn't have money to raise it. So back then you had a lot of families and people like that, right? So this missionary, they were trying to help the local children. And this wasn't just happening in one city, it was happening in every city where there were churches, right? Where there were missionary, like a padre, right? Like a father. So they were inviting those homeless kids inside to the church and give them foods to feed them. But the thing is, there were people who was intentionally trying to use that, and they were saying that they were f***ing these kids and they were eating these kids. They were saying that these white people were eating Chinese kids inside the church. That's why they invite them to the church. So,
but it's just a dark controversy. Chinese people raised.
It was a conspiracy, but most people believed it. Right, because
did it happen?
Because you need to understand, people were like under extreme poverty back then, bro. And when they see that these kids were going to like a kind of a building we've never seen before, it's tall, it looks weird. This where did these kids go? They went there and they don't come out anymore. So people were having questions, right? And they started having conspiracy, and people weren't uneducated, bro. They were not just uneducated. They were.
Oh, why wouldn't they come out?
They're primitive, bro. You need to understand, back then people were a little bit primitive, right? And they were just having kind of thoughts between this person, like guy talk, right? Just guy talk. You know what? This kid yesterday, he disappeared, and just started having this kind of conversation.
Just lost. It really happened, or it's just people?
It really happened. No, they didn't eat the kids. I mean,
just people believed it in a false way.
The church were helping these kids without food, and
they were actually
trying to raise them up. Yeah, they were actually.
But people were having wrong ideas.
People had wrong ideas because these were white people. We've never seen them
never
before.
Never seen the church.
How they came to our country, start building weird buildings. We've never seen these kind of buildings, right? We don't know nothing about your culture, and they were having red hairs, blonde hairs, and we call them the red ghost, right? Or white ghost. This is how the Chinese people called them back then. And the thing is, when enough people started hates foreigners, you have some of them starting saying, I know boxing and I know Kung Fu. So these people came together, and it's called boxer, and they call themselves like boxers something like that, right? Like boxers alliances or something like that. And
Boxers rebellion, bro.
And these people, what they did, they went inside the church, they killed the fathers, and they torn down the church. And this was happening like nationwide. They were doing this like everywhere, right?
So a bunch of Chinese people come together, doing Kung Fu
and killing
and they go to churches and they kill the fathers and they demolish the churches.
Yeah, people who work inside, whatever. And it was the beginning, right? The church was the beginning, and then they started killing every foreigners they see. because they
Yeah.
don't like them.
Propaganda.
And you need to understand, in the West back then, they already started having how do you call it? When a foreign government started like embassies, right? They were having embassy kind of system, right? If my country goes to your country officially, we build our embassies like this, right? But the Chinese, they didn't have education, don't understand this kind of concept. Like if embassies here is considered the countries here, right? You have agreement, you have alliances, right? But the Chinese, like average, they were farmers. They didn't understand this kind of stuff. They know that there are foreigners, so they went inside and killed everybody, and they killed every like white
the
men.
embassies.
Almost like all the white men they could see, they could find, and that caused anger from the West because they killed, for example, probably the British embassy ambassadors, the French ambassador, the German ambassador, the Italian ambassador, and stuff like that. And that's how they decided we should stop these boxers because boxers are going out of control. They're going out of control. So in the beginning, these governments, these alliances, right? They were texting the empress. They say, "Hey, you know your people is doing this kind of bullshit. You should stop them." But the empire, right? The Chinese, they weren't stopping it because
all this time it was ruled by the empress.
No, these were people. These were farmers. They were doing.
I know
this
they were doing that themselves, but at the same time, the empress was a woman.
Yeah, okay. I mean, she had now. I don't recall exactly who was in power back then, but if it was the empress had the knowledge that this was going on.
But she didn't do anything about it.
But because she didn't know how serious this is,
Okay.
like the foreign diplomacy, like she had no knowledge as well, right?
Makes sense.
Because she's a.
Yeah.
Anyways, she didn't understand what to do, right? And she was allowing this to happen, but until she get a text from whatever British, like you should stop doing this, and then they were sending the Chinese army to kill the Chinese boxers, because they had to stop this because it was not lawful. You should not kill people just like that.
Yeah.
Right? It's f***ing savage.
So Chinese boxers were brought down by Chinese army.
It wasn't brought down. The thing is, they were kind of like doing a righteous thing, right? Like people were thinking they were doing some righteous thing to stop the foreigners f***ing us up, right? So the army was like half stopping it, half not, kind of like that, right? Kind of like
it's
that.
impressive, bro. If they can just box the shit out of all
like
those
they were
white
doing
people.
kung fu. Okay,
Yeah.
so they were doing kung fu all the way, and they could do kung fu with the Chinese army, but they couldn't stop the movement because Chinese were kind of f***ed up. They had to, like, it's a huge country,
Yeah.
and they had to manage it here, they had to manage there. At the same time, they had problem going on everywhere. It was a difficult time for the government to pull off the armies. They had to fight with in Vietnam and in everywhere, Indonesia, somewhere like that. Anyways, they couldn't solve the movement. So these nations decided, if the Chinese government cannot solve it, we should solve it ourselves because we should protect our businessmen in China. So was it an excuse for them to get together and with China? Maybe, but were they actually protecting their people? I mean, 50%, 50-50, you never know. But the thing is, they knew that if they started doing this, they're gonna get some benefits out of this shit. So in the beginning, you have like UK. UK is definitely involved, and then you probably had French and German and Italian because they were the European countries.
France comes.
Because they were the people who were started this colonization from the very beginning, right? But then you also have the Japanese, you also have the Russian who weren't involved. Like their people were not killed, but they heard, oh, these people are going to do this. Let's join you guys. So that's when the up thing came out because they weren't involved, but they knew that it's a big cake, and if we go to this war with them, we can't lose.
Get some peace.
We're gonna get share. We're gonna get some peace, and we cannot lose this because
crumbs at least. So something better than nothing.
They can get some crumbs out of this. So they went in with these 8 nations, right? So it's called the 8-Nation Alliance. So they went in China. You can imagine, bro. 8 countries teamed up together with horses, with guns.
God
I told you the Chinese invented gunpowder, but they didn't have guns themselves. They were just having fireworks and just having shows. So.
Firework?
Yeah, they just invented
gunpowder. So it's true that gunpowder was invented by Chinese.
Mm-hmm. It's true. They invented it for fireworks.
But for fireworks? Okay. But it's crazy, bro. They invented
gunpowder. But when it's passed to the West, they
used it for the war.
Yes. Man. So they were smart.
Their own technology used against them.
Yeah. So the thing is, The thing is, it's not even the coolest part. The coolest part is when the British people, when the 8-nation alliance came with guns,
Yeah.
pointing at these boxers, and these boxers believed that they knew kung fu and bullies cannot kill them. They were basically trying to show the white people that they knew kung fu. So they let the bullies shoot them, and they died. But because they think
So they thought kung fu would make them steal iron steel.
Yeah, they think because there is a part of like practice that can make your skin like really hard, right?
I've seen in the
you can
movie.
f with the stones, you can f with the bricks, you can f with like the trees, right? So they believe that,
All my bros thought they were Bruce Lee.
and they thought they were invincible. They thought they were invincible, right? So they let bullets shoot them, and they were fighting with the people. So eventually, bro, I think it ended like this. The Boxer rebellion, they were actually quite good at war, even though they had no guns and stuff like that, but they had knives and they had a lot of people. And anyways, when the 8-nation alliance came, they weren't just aiming for the boxers. Of course, they killed some boxers, but then they also went directly to the palace, the king's palace. You can understand like that, the royal palace. They went in and they started stealing everything, the gold, the jewelries.
Wow.
Everything that worth money.
So the West looted China.
They looted China, 8 nations together. That's why even today you have some pieces of
Some
art
artifacts are with
in
them.
the Europe, here and there, in
museums.
France,
Yeah.
in UK, and they never give us back. So it's the same thing with in India. So I understand. But the thing is, they weren't aiming for the boxers, right? And eventually they just made the treat that the government should help them to stop the boxers. But it was just like saying it caused by the boxers, so you guys kill all the boxers, stuff like that. But then they also had to pay the money to these 8 nations. Like each nations right here, they had to pay them. To UK, for example, 1 million. To German, like 10 million, 100 million. It just depends on how many, like what's the loss there, right? So on top of being looted, they had to pay them because of the, just because
China
had
got
to pay,
looted.
and they had
then
to pay
China
them.
paid all these 8 countries.
Yeah, because
Because of
the boxers.
So boxers
Yeah, because of our
basically
boxers.
ruined China.
Yeah, they basically ruined China. So,
Kung Fu ruined China. Like for a short
but
period of time.
but it's all started because of cultural clash. You know what I mean?
But did the West succeed in bringing that Christianity into China?
Of course, they
So
succeeded.
boxers didn't
God
succeed.
succeeded.
God succeeded. Boxers didn't.
Boxer did, because boxers were doing a satanic thing. They were killing people for no reason. But they were like, how do you say?
But
like,
they were thinking their children were getting
Yes.
eaten. They had good intentions, but their actions were bad.
Yeah, that's the thing.